Good morning, and thanks everyone who is joining us for our session today. It's great to see you here, and we'll just wait a few more moments to allow more people to connect, and then we'll get started. And for those who are joining us now, just so you are also aware, we will be recording the session. So it will be available for you to watch or to share later. And also, if you want to ask questions, open your mic and speak to us, you're very welcome to, especially during the Q&A part of the session. But just so you're aware, we'll be recording all visuals and audio for the session. So a warm welcome to you all. We might get started. More people will join us as they come in, but just to make sure we begin on time and let you go on time. Welcome everyone to the UN Library Archives Geneva. Just a gentle reminder that we are recording the session, as I just mentioned. My name is Natalie. I work here at the Library and Archives, where we are really dedicated to sharing knowledge on multilateralism and to supporting research and international understanding. That's a big part of our mission. And so that's one of the reasons why we're here today, to be able to share with you multilateralism and break it down for you and to be able to connect you with our resources. Before we begin and go straight in, we wanted to just gauge your energy today and ask you a bit of a poll. So you'll see coming up on the screen a little poll. You can click on the answer that is most relevant to you. How are you feeling today? For us, it's all equal. Tell us how you're feeling today. Are you feeling great? Are you feeling just okay? Are you very happy that it's Friday? Please let us know. We'd love to get your answers. TGIF, thank God it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Some of you are feeling okay. We know that it's already a quarter way through the year. Energies can sometimes be starting to dip. So we appreciate that. But we've also got some people who are feeling great, which is wonderful. Thank you for responding. You're welcome to keep sharing your answers there. We will be using polls quite a bit in this session, so don't hesitate to submit and you're welcome to interact with us. So good to know. Most of you are happy it's Friday. We're happy it's Friday too. On our side, we're also happy to be with you today for this online learning session, which is called Discovering Primary Sources on Multilateralism, from the League of Nations to the UN. And we know that there are many of you joining us from different universities across Europe. That's really wonderful for us. So you're not just here in Geneva. So we'd love to know where you're joining us from. So in the chat, you can see the chat at the top of your screen. Please feel welcome to share your city and your country. It'd be wonderful to know where you're connecting from today. And we'll give you the time to do that. So we'd like to share where you're from. And while you're sharing your city and your country, hopefully your university in the chat, I'd like to say that I'm joined by my colleagues for this session. We have Christine and Hermine, who are our speakers today, and I'll introduce you to them fully soon. Also, my colleague Nivert is working with us behind the scenes. So we're all part of the Library and Archives here in Geneva. People are joining us from London, University of Padova, Italy. Padova, welcome. Neuchâtel, very nice, in Switzerland. We've got Amsterdam, Trento in Italy, the Geneva Academy, The Hague. Lots coming from Padova. That's wonderful. Great to see you joining us. We do know that there is the EU4+ Alliance plus other universities joining us. We've got a colleague also from the University of Geneva. Welcome. Thank you so much for sharing. It's good to see such a diverse audience. And this is also why we choose to do these sessions online, because Sciences Po as well, thank you, Charlotte, because we want more people to be able to access what we do and the resources that we have. So welcome, a big welcome to you all, and thanks for joining us on this Friday. Today, our goal is to really help you to understand how you can access and research multilateralism through online primary sources we have available here at the Library and Archives. And these sources span from the time of the League of Nations, so the beginning of modern multilateralism, to the UN today. And before we dive in, we also wanted to just briefly touch upon the definition of multilateralism and give you a brief introduction to the UN system, specifically what we call the UN Secretariat. For those I'm sure many of you know about, but just to give a good solid basis for why we're here. So what is multilateralism? If you look at it strictly in terms of a form of cooperation, in terms of a quantitative definition, it's a form of cooperation between at least 3 states. But in many ways, how we define multilateralism goes far beyond that. Another way to define it is it's a type of coordinated action of multiple countries pursuing common goals. And we have a fascinating research guide on multilateralism online as part of the Library and Archives that we'll share with you at the end of the session. This really delves deeper into what multilateralism means. It provides a lot of context and the principles on which it's based. And so we really encourage you to consult that to really dive deeper into what it means for us in our past, but also today. And you can really consider international organizations like the League of Nations and the UN today as examples of multilateral institutions where action and diplomacy in a multilateral context takes place. And so for this presentation, our speakers will be sharing some of the main documents that are produced by these organizations, which will help you to, when you're doing research, to know what their multilateral actions were. And they really are then they become an object of study as primary sources because they are showing the actions multilaterally. So let's move on to another poll. We'd like to also know why you are joining us today. So you're going to be seeing on the screen another question. So why are you interested in researching multilateralism? Is it for your university studies and your thesis? Is it simply because you're curious about multilateralism? Or maybe you have another reason, and we'd love to hear it also so we can better serve you in this session. So please share in the chat if there's another reason beyond those 2 that you're here today. So we have here university studies thesis, around 60% so far. Some people are also simply curious about multilateralism. We let you the time to keep answering that poll, but I'll just open the chat in case there are any other reasons. None yet, but please don't hesitate to tell us in the chat if there's any other reason. But good to know. Thank you for sharing. Great. So, okay, thank you. Thank you, Elena. You're putting in the chat that you're a researcher, so this is for your research. This is extremely good to know. Thank you. We have briefly touched upon multilateralism, and we're going to share more in the email sent to you after the session. But we also want to briefly touch upon the UN Secretariat. So you're going to see on the screen here a slide of an organogram of the UN Secretariat. You likely know some of the 6 main organs of the UN, like the General Assembly and the Security Council. These are heavily in the news and in a lot of discussions in international affairs. Another main organ is the UN Secretariat, which carries out the day-to-day work of the UN as it's mandated by the General Assembly and the other main organs. And as you may know of Antonio Guterres, who's the Secretary General of the UN. He's also the head of the Secretariat. And there are staff members working at duty stations across the world. Each department of the Secretariat has a different area of action or responsibility. And much of the UN Secretariat is located in New York City, which is the headquarters. But there are also 3 major offices outside of headquarters and 5 regional economic commissions, which you can see on the screen. And to kind of orient you today, the UN Library and Archives Geneva is part of the UN office at Geneva, so one of the 3 major offices outside New York. And so you can see that we've highlighted in red where we sit, just to give you a bit more context. Our library has a range of resources, documents, books, journals, e-resources, databases, covering all aspects of the work of the UN since 1946. But we're also quite unique in terms of UN libraries in that we house the archives of UN Geneva, also the League of Nations, and different international peace movements and more. So we are very proud to be the Library and Archives that's been here since 1919. Okay, that's enough from me. I'm sure you're very excited now to get into the substance and hear from our speakers. So I'm very happy to introduce you to our speakers now. We have with us here, you can see the photos, but also on the screen, Hermine Diebo. She's the chief of the Archives Management Unit as part of the Institutional Memory section at the UN Library and Archives Geneva, and also Cristina Giordano, who's the chief of the Knowledge Services Unit, Library Services section, also here at the UN Library and Archives Geneva. I'll be popping in for a few polls and questions throughout the session. You're also welcome to pop your questions straight into the Q&A or the chat. We can take a look at both throughout, and we'll make sure to get to those questions after their presentations today. But enough from me, over to you, Hermine and Cristina. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for such a dynamic introduction. And in this session, we are going to see the legacy between the League of Nations and the UN before defining what are primary sources, archive, official documents, and publications. And we will go more in details in the principal types of official documents before doing two demonstrations, one of the UN Archive Geneva platform and the other one of the UN Digital Library. Let's start with the tracing the legacy, because today, as it was mentioned, we are going to discussing two multilateral institutions, which are the League of Nations and the United Nations, because the histories of these two institutions are deeply interconnected. The League of Nations is often regarded as a UN predecessor, and we have the privilege of managing documents and archives from both institutions, which reveal a lot of continuities between their records. Let's see more in details the League of Nations, just to give you a broad historical context. So this organization, the League of Nations, was established in Geneva following the trauma of World War I, with the mission of maintaining world peace. And as it was the first international organization dedicated to preserving peace and promoting cooperation among states, we say that the League marked a turning point in the institutionalization of multilateralism. Okay, at least an organization represents multilateralism. And for instance, the League of Nations created a permanent multilateral framework for member state representatives within its assembly to meet regularly and to discuss major global issues on equal footing. And this concept, which may seem standard today, was very revolutionary for its first time with the League of Nations. Sadly, despite the League's existence, it could not prevent World War II, and the League and the UN coexisted for a few months after the war until the League's dissolution in 1946. And is at that time where the League's assets were transferred to the UN, including the Palais des Nations, what you can see in the photo where we are working in, also what transferred the library collections and the archives.
Thank you, Hermine. So, despite the outbreak of the Second World War, however, the idea of an international entity in charge of pursuing peace and international cooperation was not abandoned. And even during the conflict, world leaders such as the British Prime Minister Churchill and American President Roosevelt led diplomatic efforts to create a new, stronger organization after the war, the United Nations. The United Nations Charter, which is the founding document of this new organization, was signed on 26 June 1945 at the UN Conference on International Organization in San Francisco and came into force on the 24th October 1945. At the time, the UN had 51 members, but the Charter in Article 4 already aims at universal membership, stating that the UN is open to all peace-loving states willing to accept the obligations and capable to carry out the mandates set in the Charter itself. Today, the UN has 193 members, so we can say that this goal has been attained, and the UN can be considered the only true universal organization. Then in Article 1 of the Charter, we can see the definition of the mandate of the organization, which is quite large, and because it includes maintaining international peace and security, solving international problems of an economic, social, cultural, or humanitarian character, and promote respect for human rights and for fundamental freedoms for all. So, as you can see, it's a program that can only be achieved through multilateral coordinating action. 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 。 .
Thank you so much, Natalie. So this organization is a very important element of the League of Nations. And So the experience of the League of Nations left a foundation for building what is today's international system embodied in the UN. And the UN inherited many agencies which were initially created by the League. We can name, for instance, UNESCO.
But the UN tries to overcome what was the perceived weakness of the League by trying to build a stronger collective security system to avoid repeating an event such as the Second World War.
But what is interesting is that the League and the UN have a lot of common points. For instance, activities that was initially managed by the League were also continued by the UN. We can name the publication of official documents, and we will see now how the structure of the organs of the League and the UN is also quite similar.
In fact, when we examine the Covenant of the League of Nations, its founding document, and the Charter of the UN, we see that both organizations have a similar structure. But the League of Nations had 4 main organs, while the UN has 6 main organs. And now we are going to examine them one by one. We will start with the Assembly. So we see that both organizations have an assembly, the United Nations called General Assembly, and here in these organs, all member states are represented on equal footing, each holding 1 vote. These bodies meet annually in regular session, starting in September, to discuss global issues and promote dialogue. Also, both organizations have a council. And the Council for both is responsible for maintaining international peace and security and is composed of permanent and non-permanent members. Under the UN Charter, the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council are the United States, now the Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, France, and China, which were the winners of the Second World War. These 5 permanent members dispose of the right of veto. The Security Council can make recommendations on how to settle an international dispute, and it can also resort to imposing sanctions or authorizing the use of force to restore international peace. And all UN member states have the obligation to comply with Security Council resolutions. Now we're going to see the Secretariat, which is also common to the 2 organizations. And as we said before, this is the organ that performs the day-to-day work and implement the decisions of the main organs. This daily administrative work includes preparing agendas and publishing meeting records and official documents. So far, everything is the same. But for other organs, we will see a few different elements. For example, if we have a look at the economic and social field, we see that the League had organized its functional activities rather by section, while the UN has a dedicated organ, the Economic and Social Council, which is in charge of coordinating activities in this field. This implies coordinating, for example, the work of the 15 UN specialized agencies. We mentioned UNESCO before, but there are also FAO, ILO, and etc. And as well as the working with the regional and functional commissions of the United Nations itself. Then both founding documents include the creation of a Court of Justice. And under the League of Nations, we had the Permanent Court of International Justice, which was the first permanent international tribunal with general jurisdiction. His work is continued by the International Court of Justice, which adjudicates disputes among nations and gives advisory opinions on international legal issues. And finally, we have to see that the League had important activities that were carried out relating to the implementation of the peace treaties after the First World War. And this included a creation of a series of mandates for administering the former colonies and territories of Germany and the Ottoman Empire. The League of Nations mandates activities were then transferred to the United Nations, to a particular organ, the UN Trusteeship Council, whose goal was to ensure that trust territories were administered in the best interest of their inhabitants. However, all trust territories have now attained independence, and therefore the Trusteeship Council has suspended its activities in 1994.
Yes, thank you, Christina. After this broad introduction on the UN structure that will be very helpful for you when we are going to follow the presentation, let's talk about the primary sources. So today we will focus on primary sources, which are the documents produced by the League of Nations and by the UN. These primary sources include unpublished material, which are the archives, and published material, which are the official documents and the publications. And each type of documents serves a specific purpose, and we will start by examining the archives. So, what are the archives? They are documents that are produced or received by an organization, in our case, or it could be by an individual, during its daily activity. In the case of the League of Nations and the UN, these documents are often unique because they are unpublished documents like letters, draft report, or memoranda. You will be able to find them only on the archival files. And the archives provide the evidence of activities which occurred in the past, and they tell stories, document people and organizations. The archives have been selected for their permanent preservation because of their value as a source for historical or other kind of research. Let's see two examples. The first one is from the League of Nations archives on the left, and it's a letter from June 1922 from Marie Curie, the famous Polish and naturalized French physicist and chemist who conducted pioneering research on radioactivity. In this letter, she answered to the Secretary General of the League of Nations regarding his invitation to join the newly established Commission of Intellectual Cooperation. And in her reply, she expressed that she is not certain to accept this position. And on the right, we have an example of a UN archives document. Here it's a letter from 1950, which with comments from the United Kingdom regarding the drafting of the International Covenants of Human Rights. So today we will not go further into the typology of archives, but it was important to mention this type of primary sources because you may encounter them when you will be navigating on the UN Archive Geneva platform. And now we will continue to focus on the published document of the League of Nations and the UN, starting with the official document.
Yes, thank you, Hermine. So here we already see some examples of official documents, in this case of the United Nations. So in this form, you will find a variety of documents, but they are all designed to serve the work of the deliberative organs of the organizations. So in these forms, you will find their resolutions, their reports, or their meeting records, or, for example, letters that transmit information. These documents are prepared by the UN Secretariat. They are printed in several copies, and they are made available to delegates and participants in UN official meetings. So they are mostly written for diplomats or experts that take part in these official meetings. Also, given the fact that they serve as, work documents, they are available for free. The organization is not going to charge the participants for accessing these documents. And they're also free for the public, for the general public. Now we're going to take a close look at some elements of these documents. You would here you have other example also of United Nations documents, but both the League and the UN add similar elements for their official documents. For example, one of the most important elements is the document symbol. So each document that pertains to this category has a unique document symbol, which is like the key for identifying that particular document. And you will find this document symbol always on the top right of the document. Also, you have to know that the same symbol will be applied to all the different language versions. And since these are official documents, in principle, they are published and translated and published in all the official languages. Now, there are some differences for the official languages. For example, the League of Nations only had English and French as official languages, but the United Nations has 6 official languages. So we have Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish.
Yes, and let's see now an example of a League of Nations official documents. Here it's a document from 1930, which addressed the concept of creating a European Federal Union. It was after a proposal of the French government. During the League of Nations, this proposal didn't go through, but of course it was a very interesting after to be used, the concept in the creation of the European Union. So here what we can see is what Christina has described. We have the document symbol on the top right of the document. We have, of course, the title of the document. And below the document symbol, we have the date of the document. And on the top left here, we have the indication that the document was distributed to the Council, the member of the League, and the delegate at the Assembly.
And here is an example of a UN official document. You see that the system is a little bit more elaborated in the sense that all UN official documents, they will have this typographical layout. So you will always see the indication clearly that this is a United Nations document. You will see the name of the organization and also the famous symbol of the organization, as well as the name of the organ to which this document has been submitted to. Then on the top right, you see the famous symbol, so the unique identifier, which is always composed by a string of characters and numbers separated by slashes. Normally, the first element in the symbol is the reference to the organ to which this document has been submitted to. So in this case, we see A, which stands for General Assembly. Then further down, you see indication in which session this document pertains to. So we see that is the 79th session of the General Assembly. So the one before this one, and we also have a point on the agenda, which is the program of work of the organ during the session and to which this document pertains to. And it's the point on the agenda 123 called Strengthening of the United Nations System. And then finally, down we see the title, the real title of the document, which is the Pact for the Future, which appears to be a resolution adopted by the General Assembly on 22nd September 2024. Now, if we take a closer look at the various types of official documents, we see that in these categories, we can find meeting records, resolutions, reports, and letters. So these are the principal types of documents that you may encounter in your search, and we're going to describe what kind of information you can retrieve from them. We will start with the meeting records. Meeting records are quite important because they contain the statements and speeches, and also they record the actions that have been taken during a specific meeting of an organ, either of the League or of the United Nations. Now you have to know that there are two types of meeting records. There are the so-called verbatim record, or in French, procès-verbaux, which contain the full first-person account of the proceedings of a meeting. So everything that's been said has been accurately recorded. Then there are also summary records. In the case of the summary records, not everything is recorded in the first person. You only have a condensed version written at the third person of the proceedings of a meeting. Why there is this difference is that verbatim records are time consuming and they're also kind of costly. So only the main UN organs, for example, the general meetings of the General Assembly or the meetings of the Security Council, are entitled to have verbatim records taken of their meetings, while other organs, for example, the Economic and Social Council, they only have summary records. Then another important category that you will encounter in your research are the resolutions. So in the resolutions is where you really find the formal expression of the opinion or the will of the main organs, which has been formed through the majority of its members. And resolutions are normally adopted with a vote, but they can also pass without a vote if there is no opposition, if there is consensus. Then another category which provide you a lot of useful information are the reports. So the reports are among the most common documents produced by the UN or the League of Nations, and they can be on a variety of topics. Of particular relevance are the reports for the UN established by the Secretary General. And in particular, there is one that he publishes every year on the work of the organization. Now we also see another category of official documents, which are the letters. So in the letters, it's a way of informing the organs of the organization on the outcome of meetings that are organized outside the organization itself, or of events that also have taken place, and they're generally used by member states to bring this information to the attention of the organization's organs. So they can be also in a variety of subjects, and they are mostly established for communication purposes. Now you see, we change a little bit the scene and we go into another category of resources that international organizations produce. So these are the publications. The publications have been started with the League of Nations. For example, you see here on the left a publication that the League published, a statistical yearbook of the League. We also have a statistical yearbook of the UN, which continues. So you can see there is this continuity. And on the right, you see a very common and well-known UN publication, the basic facts about the United Nations, which provide you information on the way how the organization works, the organs, what they publish, etc. So you can see here there is not this standard layout that we have seen for the official documents. So these are really like more books or periodicals. And you see also a lot of colors, a lot of graphical changes. Why is this? Because these publications are usually not produced for diplomats and experts, but they're aiming at the general public. So the UN wants to give them the most possible, widest diffusion. And they are also on topics of more general interest, we could say. So these publications, they may include statistical compilation, have you seen, but also, for example, reproduction of the most important reports of the result of certain research that technical organs of the organizations have produced. And this kind of publications nowadays are for great part available for free in electronic format on the institutional websites of the organization of the UN. So we can maybe turn the slide. And here you see a little bit a recap of what I've just told you for the category of the UN publications. And
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Hermine, Christina. This was a lot of content. We hope it's been useful for you so far. And we'd like to just touch base with you and do a bit of a quiz time. So we're going to launch the next poll. We've got 2 questions for you as part of the quiz. You'll see popping up on the screen the first one. What type of primary source is this document that you see on the screen here? Is it an archives document, an official document, or do you think it's a publication? We'll give you a moment to answer. So feel free to choose the one that you think it may be. And then you can toggle to the next question. Take your time. There's no rush. You can still think about that. But there's a little arrow at the bottom of the poll to click to the next question. And this one's not associated with the slide, but is another question for you. Which type of UN official document typically contains the decisions and actions taken during a formal meeting of a UN body? Is it a resolution, a report, a meeting record, or a letter? So please let us know what you think it could be. And then once you've answered both questions, you can hit submit and we'll see your responses. So we've got about 9 responses so far. It's not too late to join us. We'll give you some time. So if you want to join, please let us know what you think. There's no judgment. We're all here to learn. So let us know what you think it could be. Elena has put in the chat. She thinks the first one is an archival document. So let's then take a look at the first question. What type of primary source is this document? Some have said it's an archives and some have said official document. Can I pass to Hermine and Christina to give us the right answer there?
yes, I think we can maybe put the slide, the
next slide,
which will give us some hints. So you see here a little bit recap of the characteristics of the archives and the UN archives documents and the UN documents. So the first document belongs to the category of the UN official documents because it has been issued by one of the principal or subsidiary of the UN. So it was, I think, a General Assembly. And also we had the header. Have you seen the name of the organ and the document symbol? And it is also a document that is printed in many copies. So it's not unique as an archival document. So the first document, the letter, was an UN official document. That's the right answer.
Great, good to know. Thank you, Christina. Let's pass on to the second question then. Which type of UN official document typically contains the decisions and actions taken during a formal meeting of a UN body? We've got just a little over half. Oh, no, what we have here is most people saying that, yeah, a little over half saying that it's a resolution. About 32% guess that it's a meeting record, and 16% think it is a letter. Christina and Hermine, would you be able to share the correct response?
I think the correct response, I also got it wrong, but it's a meeting record because it's a bit tricky. It's true, in the resolution there are also, an action that is taken, but the question was which kind of document contains the action that been taken during a meeting. So it was a meeting record.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks all for participating. We will share these slides so that you can have a deeper look at how you can identify different official documents, but we hope that you enjoyed doing that exercise together. Now that we've learned all these different types of primary sources and documents, we wanted to now give you a demo of 2 platforms where you can actually access these documents online. And we're going to begin with the UN Archives Geneva platform demonstration with Hermine. So Hermine, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Let's go to the practice. with the UN Archives Geneva platform indeed. So in this platform, you will be able to find the League of Nations official documents and publication, but not only, because in this platform, you will find the description and in specific cases, also the full text of digital documents managed by the UN Archives Geneva. You can see that on the blue browse box on the left here, we have our 5 categories of archives, which are preserved at the UN Library and Archives Geneva. Today, we will focus only on the League of Nations archives. For you to know that the totality of the League of Nations archives have been fully digitized, which represent nearly 14 million pages, and they are completely freely available online on this platform. Among the League of Nations archives, we have the collection of the League of Nations official documents. Here, you can see that this collection has around nearly 120,000 documents. You can see also that these documents are organized in a tree structure by series. And these series are arranged around 4 main topics. And I'm going to explain you the 4 topics, but you will be able to find a synthesis of this information lower down here in this content and structure area. You will find the detail of what I'm going to explain you now. So what we have, the first topic is linked to the institutional structure of the League of Nations. So we find here its main body, the Council, Assembly, Secretariat that we presented, and we have also the ancillary bodies and institutions connected with the League of Nations, the financial administration part, and the bodies dealing with various League of Nations constitutional questions. That's the first topic. Then, if we go to the second topic, we will find the League's activities related to the peace treaties. So here we will find the mandate system, the minority, the Free City of Danzig, and the SAR territory. After, we go to the third topic, which are the efforts of the League in maintaining international peace and security. It's where we will find disarmament, collective security, political disputes, and various political issues. And lastly, we will find all the documents linked to the functional activities of the League, which can be economic, social, humanitarian, cultural, legal. That's where we will find the economic and financial organization documents, or also the documents of the intellectual cooperation organization. But let's start now revising a type of document, and we can start with the minutes of meetings. So let's say that we want to consult the minutes of the 11th session of the League's Assembly. So we will start from the Assembly. We click to open the tree view. You can see that the documents of the Assembly are organized by session. We go to the 11th session, and we want to consult the plenary meetings, the minutes of the plenary meetings. And we want them in English. We can choose in French. And when you get to the lower level, here you will see a thumbnail, which means that there is a digital document. And to open it, you just have to click on the thumbnail, you accept the copyright notice, and you will download the PDF on your computer. So here you have the document. You can see that in that case, it's more of 200 pages long. No? So you can find very short document and very long documents. And in this kind of minutes, you will find the decision and action taken by the Assembly, but also you will find the text of the speeches addressed at the Assembly. So let's take an example, and we will see, let's go to page 4, we will see a speech addressed by Mr. Nicolae Titulescu who was a very famous diplomat from Romania in the interwar period, mainly, but also after. And here you will see that his speech is transcribed at the first person, which is a good example of what Christina has said when she explained the difference between verbatim record and summary records. So here we can see, allow me to express to you my sincere gratitude for the great honor, etc. So we can see that each word of the speech have been transcribed and it's on the first person. So now that we have seen an example of minutes, let's go back to the platform and to search another type of document, performing a search. So here I will show you how to perform an advanced search and how to perform it, especially on the collection of the official documents. For that, you have to click on the level you are interested in that case, official documents, and you go to the image carousel and you select Show All. When you do that, you will be able to perform only on the official documents collection. Here you have the advanced search option. Clicking on it, it will open it for you, and you are able to indicate the term of search that you want to use. In that example, let's say that we want to find the Secretary General report on the topic of women. So we can indicate Secretary General report woman, and we can specify that we want to search only on the title of the document. And when we perform the search, we will, of course, have a very precise result, so very few results, because we will find the word indicated only on the title of the document. We will want, for instance, to consult this report of nationality of women. We click on it, and then we click on the thumbnail. We accept the copyright notice to download the document. Here is it. In that case, it's a document from 1931, is on the question of nationality of women, which was a very important struggle for feminist organization in the 1930s within international organization, because the nationality of women were subordinated to the nationality of their husband, which generated a lot of problems. If we go back to the platform, we can see where this document belongs to in the tree view, and you can understand where it comes from. So you can either use the tree view here, so you can see it's from papers of the assembly, or you can use the breadcrumbs here when you will find the information in which context these documents come from. So here it's a document that was presented to the member of the assembly during the 12th session. So I will finish here the demonstration of the platform. If you want to go back to the home page, you can only click on the house icon. I want to mention that please feel free to contact us if you have any question using the Ask an Archivist form. You will find the link at the bottom of each page. You can just fill that form and we will answer very quickly. You can also contact us through the chat, and we do answer. We are not a robot, so we are not a bot, so you can use it. And also you can sign up to our newsletter with this link. And if you want to consult the help option, you can go on the quick links and select help section. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Hermine. That was a very comprehensive overview of how to use the platform, but also the different handy links there. So thank you. That was platform one. We've got another platform to share with you now, which is called the UN Digital Library. And I pass to Christina for this demo. Thanks, Christina.
Thank you, Natalie. Yes, indeed, there is also a platform devoted to UN materials, actually only devoted to UN materials, which is called the UN Digital Library. You see here the address at the bottom of the slide. And in this is it's very important for your research, because this is the one access point where you can find the UN official documents and also the UN publications, as well as other kind of information that is linked to the activities of the UN. For example, there is a database where you can find how resolutions of the main organs have been voted. Another part where you can retrieve the records of the speeches of the various representatives of the member states in front of these main organs, but also, for example, the UN collection of digitized maps or the UN oral history recordings, which were are interviews that were conducted some years ago with important UN civil servants that they had fundamental positions with the organization. So it is also like the institutional memory of the UN. So I will try now to share my screen and show you a little bit more in detail the UN Digital Library. However, first, I would like to let you know what you can find in full text in the digital library. So you have to know that when this database was created, it was not called the UN Digital Library. It was many years ago, in 1979. And the goal originally was to create an online catalog for UN publications and documents. Which means that at the time, what was done, it was a bibliographic description of these documents based on the English version of each document. And this bibliographic description is not exactly the same as the one that you find for books and other materials, because for the UN documents, you will see that there are specific fields that are used that are very adaptive to the kind of materials, but they're very particular. Also, there is it's not only a cataloging that is done, but it's what is called an indexing. So it's a very detailed description. So for many years, this was just a catalog. You had to look for the reference to the documents, and then you will find it in paper version. But in 1993, the UN started producing documents, its official documents, also in electronic versions. So from 1993 onwards, in the digital library, you will not find only the description, but also you will find the full text of the documents, possibly in the 6 official languages or in all the languages that are available. What happens to the period from 1946 to 1992, which is a big span of time? So there is, from the point of view of full text, there is an important selection of the documents that are available in full text in the digital library. These, for example, are the resolutions of the main organs. All of them have been scanned from the beginning, from 46, in the 6 official languages. So you will find the full text of this resolution in the digital library. You will also find all the documents of the Security Council, including their meeting records, for example. And also, for the General Assembly, you will find the meeting records and the reports, the main reports that have been presented to it. But the project is not completed, because you can imagine that the UN series celebrated its 80th birthday. So it's been in function for a long time, and it has created also, besides the organs, the main organs, a plethora of subsidiary organs that also have produced their documents. So this is an ongoing project of digitizing the UN official documents. For the League of Nations Archive, it was possible to do it also thanks to an important project with an external donor. But for the UN, we have not yet found this external benefactor. So it's a project that's ongoing, this digitization, and is carried out between our library and the library in headquarters, but we still have a long work to do. So now let's have a look how this digital library looks like. And I don't know, can you see it? No.
Yes, thank you, Christina.
Yeah, so here it is. It's the way how it looks. And you can see here that it tells you that here you can explore documents, votes, speeches, public domain publications, and more. You also see that it is organized by collection. So you can find the documents and publication, the maps, images, sounds, voting data, speeches, and databases. Or also, if you know which body of the UN you are researching documents for, you can also look into there directly into the documents produced by this body. So now we are going just to do a research very general on the topic of multilateralism and see what we retrieve. So we retrieve like 1,123 records, quite fast. So it's a lot of materials. And you see, when we use this kind of search, we usually search into the bibliographic description of the document. So we are looking at the word multilateralism in the title or in the subject, but not in the full text of the document itself. We'll have a look at that later. Then you say, well, there is a lot of documents, but for example, I would like to have resolutions on the topic of multilateralism. And to pinpoint your research here, you see on the left of the screen, there are different categories called the facets that allow you to be more precise in your research. So for example, if I'm looking for resolutions on multilateralism, I can click here and just look for resolutions and decisions. And for example, I can have a look at the first one that I have retrieved. It's a resolution by the General Assembly, and it has established this International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace, which is coming up very soon because it's the 24th of April every year. What you see here, when you see these multiple files, it means that when you go into the record, you will see not only the description, but also the full text. There is the full text that is attached. And if we click on the title, we will see how a record in the digital library looks like. There is a little description here with some basic information. So it tells you it's a resolution. It was a General Assembly resolution. It belongs to the 73rd session, 2018, 2019, and it was approved in 2018. Here we have the possibility of downloading already the different linguistic version in the 6 official languages. And here comes the indexing part. So the detailed description of this document. And here, first field that you find is the symbol. So this unique identifier of this particular document. Then you have the full text, again the possibility of downloading the various linguistic versions, and here action note is actually the date when the resolution was adopted. You will also find interesting information here because this resolution was voted, so it didn't pass without voting, but there was a voting, and these are the results of the voting. It also tells you when, at which meeting this resolution was adopted. It was the 51st plenary meeting of the 73rd session of the General Assembly. Now, what you will find in the resolution is the final text. But if you want to know a little bit the history of this resolution, it may be that the text has been changed. So here it's very interesting because thanks to the work of the UN indexers, you also have the projects of this resolution, the drafts that were submitted to the General Assembly before arriving to the final text. So if you're doing research and want to know the history, this is very handy for you. Then if you want to see how the resolution was, there was kind of discussion was taken on this resolution, what kind of declaration, here you have the link to the procès verbal, so the full record of the meeting, and you have also the link that you can see. So all this information that helps you for the research is available in one record. And also here you can see to which point of the agenda of the 73rd session, this document belonged to. It was point 15, culture of peace. And also here you can see the subjects. For example, here is the word multilateralism. Now, in this little window down here, it's also very practical because you can have a look immediately at the text of the resolution, and you can perform searches, for example, inside the full text. So here, first of all, we have the Arabic version, but if we click here, we can also see other languages, including, for example, English. And then if we want to look into this thing, we also have the possibility of doing a search inside this text. Well, with Control F, we can see what's inside the text if you're looking for a specific word, for example. Now, if we look a little bit at the agenda information, we saw this point on the agenda, we can see that, for example, there are a lot of other documents that had been presented on that topic in that particular session of the General Assembly. And if we want to retrieve these famous letters and not verbal, we can click here and we will retrieve, for example, examples of this kind of documents. So here we have a letter, for example, from the government of Kazakhstan, and it tells you here in the description that it transmits a declaration by the participant of the 7th Congress of Leaders of World and Traditional Religions held in Astana in 2018. So this is an external meeting that took place in another place, but the government of Kazakhstan desires to bring this information to the General Assembly, so it takes the form of a letter. And if we have a look how this letter is presented, you see here that the ambassador says, I would be grateful if you would kindly circulate the present letter and the attached declaration as a document, as an official document to General Assembly, and you also specified which point on the agenda it has to be under agenda item 15. So that's, I mean, an example of the research that we can do in and what kind of information you can find in the digital in the digital library. So far, what I've done, I have searched in the bibliographic description. But if I want, I can also activate this research multilateralism in the full text of the document, so in the PDFs. And if I turn this on very easily, you will see that I find a lot of other documents. So these are documents, are resolutions that mention the word multilateralism in their text, although multilateralism may not be the main subject of these documents. But this full text search is also useful for you because if you're looking for some specific expression or the name of somebody, it could be also a good way to retrieve it. So this is a little bit an example of the information and the searches that you can do in the digital library. It's rather simple, and I would say it's also user-friendly. And here, in any case, there is an help that you can use if you want to do things that are a little bit more sophisticated. And this is what I wanted to tell you, hoping to demonstrate the different kinds of official documents that you can find. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Christina. So those are the two platforms we wanted to demo to you today that you can take away, access online from wherever you are, and then really be able to use, research, and utilize these primary sources on multilateralism. So having had a demo of those two platforms, we have one last quiz question to ask you today. So you'll see here the question on the screen. Where can you access the official documents of the League of Nations? Is it the UN Archives Geneva platform, or is it the UN Digital Library that you just saw with Christina now? We let you a little bit of time to answer that one, and then we'll give you the answer. if you'd like to join us, it's not too late. We'll let you respond, and then you can see the answer we'll share from Hermine and Christina. Where can you access the official documents of the League of Nations? Is it the Archives Geneva platform, the UN Archives Geneva platform, or the digital library? Most people so far are responding the UN Archives Geneva platform. Hermine, is that correct?
Yes, indeed, it's correct. It's where you will be able to find the League of Nations archives.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. We'll share the links to those when we send you the slides and the video as well. Great. We are almost near the end of our presentation, but we would love to have your questions. If you do, we know some of you have had to pop off and leave already, but if you would like to ask a question, please either put it in the chat or the Q&A, or you can raise your hand. We can open your mic and your camera if you'd like to interact live with us. So please let us know if you'd like to do that. And then I would just like to share briefly a few extra resources. We know we've put a lot at you today in terms of resources, but you can see on the screen, you'll see a list of online resources. We've got one link here. So on our website, the learning part of the UN Library and Archives Geneva, if you click on this link that you'll get in the slides, we have a range of other resources that you can explore. The UN Documentation Research Guide, which is a fantastic research guide coming from New York, which really then details all the documents which we have covered today. There's also a guide that we create here in Geneva for the League of Nations. The Yearbook of the UN is an incredible resource for really detailed analysis of the decisions of the UN from 1946 to 2015. And then, of course, here at the library, we also have our podcast and our video series called Histories, where you can see a range of different episodes on multilateralism and the history of the League of Nations and the UN. So I invite you then to take a look at those links when you have time and in your own time. We also wanted to let you know that we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook for the moment. So if you want to follow us, please do. We make sure to put content there, and you're also welcome to subscribe to YouTube to see the videos that come up as well. Fantastic. So we'd love to get your questions now. I think I did see one coming in the chat. Here we go. Charlotte. Okay, yes, it's the one from Charlotte. So thank you very much for the presentation. I was wondering how to cite all these documents. That's a fantastic question. Christina and Hermine?
I already answered in the chat.
Oh, fantastic.
So okay. I sent two FAQs. One is more on the UN Archives, UN Archive Geneva archival documents, and the other one is on the UN documents. So the way to cite UN documents applied also to League of Nations documents. Okay. But please contact us if you have any doubt. We can help you, but of course the citation depends on the style that you are using for your work.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you for those links to the FAQs. Of course, if at any point in your research you're just unsure, we've got a link that we're going to share with you as well to ask a librarian or an archivist. You can certainly ask there, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can on the citation of the resources. Thank you, Charlotte, for your question. We have another one from Amrit. Thank you. Do the platforms have links to the open access platforms of other countries? So maybe for Hermine, I let you I let you respond firstly for the UN Archives Geneva.
So that's a very that's an interesting question. So if we do have links from our platform to external platform, no. Okay, because what we present on our platform is our documents. But I suppose that other open access platform have linked to our platform, if I'm clear in the explanation. I don't know if you have a more precise question. I will be happy to answer. Are you thinking of one specific open access platform? Definitely our platform are open access by definition, because you can consult, download the document without need of login or paying anything.
Thank you, Hermine. I think Amrit would like to ask verbally. Amrit, you have the floor. We've unmuted your mic.
Thank you. Thanks for a great presentation. My question was related, if I give a specific example. So I was searching on these platforms while you were talking about them, about the partition of India in 1947 and the British role in that. And I couldn't really find much. So I was wondering if the platforms that you showed could direct links to platforms of other countries which have more information on that. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I think so. What we are trying to do precisely with that kind of session is to explain what kind of information you will find in the UN official documents or League of Nations official documents. So in the talking about the topic of your interest, I suppose there is no much in the UN documents because of the date. Clearly, you won't find it in the League of Nations documents. But I suppose that you may be more interested by UN archives if there is some information. But that's another topic, another platform. I can share with you also the URL of the UN archives in New York. But yeah, what you are saying is interesting is where I can find that kind of information. But no, in that sense, you will have to do your own research and get to the platform, probably also the platform of archives in India, where you will be able to find information of interest. Because if we start, to make link to a lot of open resources, we will never end because we will have to link to the 193 countries that in the world. Do you understand my answer?
I also wanted to add that for your research since the beginning of the UN, you can also use the United Nations yearbook, which is available since 1946. It's been fully digitized. So I suppose the partition took place, I don't remember, maybe 48. So that's, you can probably look, there must be something about this topic about India. You can search by subject, and you should be able to retrieve UN documents on this topic. I don't know if there are resolution or some reports, if the question was ever brought to the United Nations. But that's a good. The yearbook, especially for this kind of historical research, is a very good point to start. Yeah.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you. Ruth has put in the chat 1947, just to answer your question there about the year. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Okay, hopefully that was helpful for you. We do have another question about the specific, the code, and I see that Armin has responded to that one. Thank you. I don't know if you want to also elaborate, Armin, on that one for everyone else.
I think Christina was going to answer, no?
Yes, Christina, sorry. So when searching for a specific UN document by the digital library, using the code of the document, which symbol are we supposed to use? The forward slash, the full stop, the dash, the forward slash.
The slash.
There we go.
Yeah,
okay,
the slash.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, great. I think we have covered all the questions there. We're almost at the end of our session today, but if you do have more questions for us, please do email us. We're going to send you an email after the session with all the resources. Just click respond, reply to that if you have a question, and we'll direct it to Christina and Armin. But of course, in the resources, we'll also share with you the link to ask a librarian or an archivist as you continue your research. A very warm thank you for joining us today, and for all of you who held on to the very end. We really appreciate that. So thank you so much. We would like just a brief feedback from you. Our last poll, we promise, but we'd just like to hopefully improve every time we do the session. So there's a 3-question poll that you can answer very briefly, quickly if you have to go. So how relevant was today's session for your studies or activities? From 1 star to 5 stars, please give your honest opinion. We'd love to get that feedback. The second question was, how was the pace of the presentation? Too slow, too fast, just fine? So we can improve there with that. And what are the main takeaways for you from today's session? If you want to submit just a word or two, what really stuck with you, and hopefully you will be able to apply in your studies or activities. So once you've had a chance to answer those 3 questions, please go ahead and click submit, and we'll take the time after the session to go through that and continually improve. But to all of you, thank you very much for your time. We wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Thank goodness it's Friday. Sorry, Boniface, certificates. So we don't give formal certificates as it's not a formal training. However, if you want to reply to our email that we'll send for a certificate of participation, for anyone who's interested to get that, please do let us know. We're happy to send that to you. And I think that's now all the questions. So yes, thank you for your time. Have a wonderful rest of the Friday and weekend. Thank you, Christina, Armin, and Nibert behind the scenes. We hope to see you soon for another session or something else at the Library and Archives. But until then, take care and bye from all of us.
Thank you so much for your attention. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.